Hello and welcome to episode 31 of the Irish Mags Show for what is an extra special live recording across our YouTube and Twitch channels. My name is Paul. I'll be your host for today as usual. And joining me are the Odysseus Vlachodimos to your John Ruddy is, of course, Alan and Krisho. Welcome in, lads. Thanks for being here today.
How's it going? How are we, lads?
Hi, everybody.
Just enjoy that one.
Could I? Yeah, it's Clack, because I was never going to pronounce that name. I'll be John Ruddy. I'm okay with John Ruddy.
I mean,
I'll be Vlachodimos, don't worry.
Yeah, it kind of goes like one of those goalkeepers is slightly more bald than the other. And, Christian normally wears a hat, but he's openly admitted why. So, I think it goes without saying.
Shots fired.
We're all about having a fresh reference here on the Irish Mags Show. And of course, we are live. So we'll dive straight into it, lads. Our main focus today is, of course, to chat with our wise and noble listeners and our Irish Mags crew, answering all the questions we might have, hearing some hot takes, and chatting about all things Newcastle United. And of course, the Irish Mags. But before we do that, quick shout out to everyone who's watching on YouTube or Twitch. Please make sure to smash that like and subscribe button. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that follow button on Twitch. And for anyone who's listening back post the live event, make sure you're following us, whether it's Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever we've managed to infiltrate your podcast feed. Right, guys, everybody here, welcome in. On to pressing matters. So as discussed, we're going to try and get through as many of our audience questions that we receive as possible. We thought it might be an idea. There's a lot to talk about in what will hopefully be an hour and a bit, depending on how wild things get. So we're going to divide up the show into kind of 6 overall themes or categories. We're going to have a chat about PSR and combine that into the summer transfer budget. We ran a poll on Twitter with some very interesting results. Then we move into outgoing transfers, because obviously that's been the theme of the last few days and the weekend. To be fair, I think it practically ruined everyone's weekend with all the dramatics, but we'll come to that. Then we can slide across onto incoming transfers, which should brighten things up, especially thinking about that summer transfer budget. Quick chat about Dan Ashworth, because I think Krisho wants to talk about Dan Ashworth. He's one of his favorite people. He's one of Krisho's people.
Yeah, and, he's not one of Krisho's people. He's the worst, Paul. Dan Ashworth, Dan Jobsworth.
All the time you spent drinking beers in his garden with him. Anyway, we'll come back to that. And then a bit of breaking news from today. We'll have a chat about the Sela Cup and some pre-season matters, because there's officially news and a full announcement. And then finally, tickets and membership. I think we'll have to have a little chat about that as we round off the show this week with our Irish Mags, of course. We'll have a little chat about membership, tickets, travel plans and the like, because it's already heating up, even though it's a few months away. Hopefully there'll be an Aer Lingus strike resolved by the time everyone's starting to go traveling to Newcastle. Right, lads. Shall we bounce through? Well, we'll wait for some of the questions to come in, but I think we could crack off, Alan, because I know you're a very emotional character. I know you literally wear your heart in your sleeve, and you're wearing Newcastle on it today. That weekend, right? And we're probably going to use this to talk about PSR.
Yeah.
Because I feel like every single Newcastle fan has had to become an expert on PSR, more so than usual, in a very quick space of time, and equally had to accept it. And there's a really good question here from Mark Atkinson. How did Newcastle get into a position of needing to plug a £50 million hole, yet Nottingham Forest could find 35 million for Anderson? And Alan, we've chatted about this, so let's hear what's in that brain of yours.
So Forest basically sold a couple of players to Lyon. They've gotten a couple of players out earlier than we really did, which shows the need for a director of football more than that, and I think. But the 50 million hole is a bit worrying, considering we had Champions League football and all that jazz, but it was something that was plugged. And I think it's going to lead down the line of, we will probably come out decided this PSR battle a hell of a lot healthier than we were anticipating, because I don't think at the start of the window we thought we'd have to sell 2. We didn't really need to sell 2, but the money we got for selling the 2 plugs such a hole that we're going to have an awful lot more to spend this summer, or potentially the next couple of summers over. So might not be the greatest of moments at the minute, but I can guarantee you by the end of this window and future windows, we will not be too upset that we had to sell Minta or Anderson. Obviously, we didn't want to see Anderson go, being a young up and coming Newcastle born player, but unfortunately, these things happen.
Yeah, and I think we all kind of knew for a while that we need to sell. I mean, it's been said all season, really. Now, there's a lot of different shenanigans going on, Crucial, like rumors of Gordon and Liverpool and Chelsea looking at Isak and City, Bruno, and obviously those clubs are probably aware that we are under the caution we want to or may need to sell. Then there's the kind of some of those rumors going around that some of those stories were kind of put out front and center so as to make it a little less hard to take when they do announce the likes of Anderson and Minta. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think there's a strategic kind of intent there, which would go down the road of this? A lot of this was planned. We've known for days that we're selling Minta and Anderson. This has been totally under control, versus that panicky situation that happened.
Oh, well, look, do our listeners, or do you guys like kippers? Kippers give me heartburn. I'd love to eat them for breakfast or have them, but they give me heartburn. I think Luke Edwards and other people like that have a lot of heartburn over the last couple of weeks because they've been fed a number of kippers, whether it's complete miscommunication or it's communication strategy par excellence. But people say, oh, the clubs did speak to Chelsea. I mean, or they did chat to Liverpool. Yeah, probably for about 10 minutes, 7 minutes. And just to kind of get a gauge, there was no way in hell. That was all. I would hate to say a smokescreen. I'm sure they did chat to them, but it was just kind of just to gauge it. I firmly believe that, look, it was either going to be Longstaff or Anderson. And unbelievably, we got more money for Anderson, 35 million plus a goalkeeper who, by all accounts, when he was at Benfica, he's actually quite good. So I think we nailed it. We smashed it out of the park. But this whole thing on Twitter, I don't know whether Craig Hope and Luke Edwards and son are working with the club just to kind of aid what's going on here. But it seems to me like that we were all getting our underpants in a twist about the fact that we might sell Gordon or we might sell Isak. Not in a million years would we sell either of them. And some people saying, oh, maybe we'll sell Gordon in 3 years' time to Liverpool. That's 3 years down the line. We'll be winning Champions Leagues and Premier Leagues then. So don't worry about that. I don't think any of them are going anywhere, even in 3 years' time. But it was they were all being sold kippers. All that stuff on Twitter none of that was going to happen. I mean, you saw it. Our Irish Mags group nearly exploded. Like literally nearly exploded because people were like, what's going on here? And how come we've got so much, how come we've got I wrote down here, was it 30 million or was it 50 million, this whole? Because 50 million.
We don't know.
No, we don't know.
We did buy a lot of players, let's be honest, and Isak's 63 million must have punctured our 3-year rolling profit and sustainability. So it might have been 50 million. But what did we get? We got 68 million for the two of them. Yeah, and a goalkeeper.
It is serious business on paper. Now, I suspect there's something with Forest where maybe we're somehow going to give some of that money back, because I think the goalkeeper thing didn't really come into it. It's a hell of a lot. We have that question there, Alan, from your godson about would you 30 million was in for Anderson or Miley. I think 35 million feels like a lot for Anderson personally. I don't know if you feel
it does.
Strange.
Yeah. Anderson, I kind of valued at about 25 million on his potential, if you know what I mean. And any more than that, I'm going, that's outrageous money. But I think the Anderson deal might be that we're only, getting 10 million up front, and say 15 million, that 35 million could be to do with add-ons and clauses and all that jazz. So depending on how much potential he fulfills, it depends on how much we're going to get out of that deal. But it does plug a serious hole for us being that good. And to answer Sean's question, Anderson's the only one getting sold out of them too. Lewis Miley ran the midfield against PSG at 17 years of age. Anderson wasn't doing that. So there is a right answer to that one, and it's Anderson gets sold.
Yeah, and I think the outrage would have been far worse if it was someone like Miley, even though there's only 4 years between them, really. Like, Anderson's still only 21, but I think Miley's our future, right? Miley is the future of this midfield, potentially the future of England's midfield. I think you'd be talking about a whole different level of outrage if it was Miley and not Anderson, for sure.
Yeah.
Because, again, 17, there's only so much you'll get for a 17-year-old, and you're just thinking, what if he turns out to be, obviously, what we all hope he does. It
was near pandemonium during the week as well. As I don't know what you guys saw, but Longstaff going to Milan for £20 million. Was it 20? I think it was £20 million.
You need to stop looking at faking the no accounts on Twitter, mate.
They're on the feed, and I was thinking, Is that even a Milan jersey? What's going on here? There was too much information coming through for the last couple of days. Gordon leaving, Isaac leaving, Longstaff going to Milan, Jeff Hendrick coming back to the club on loan. You know, so on, so on, so on. I just couldn't believe what was being, because we've been all over Sky News for the last 4 or 5 days, pretty much all about us.
Well, Keith Downey is working double time, so he's more than he's had to in a long time. I'd love to see. I kind of would like to see Longstaff at Milan. You know, you see Loftus-Cheek out there. Great season for them. I'm kind of like, maybe he'd do well.
Come on, but yeah, he might do well.
You never know. But Eddie will never let Sean Longstaff go. I think if Longstaff was lying down on that board that Kate Winslet was on at the Titanic, Eddie would be happy to sit in the water. You know, so he loves it. He loves it. Right. I mean, message from Gary there, like saying that maybe that 35 million was a bit too much. You know,
to put it into perspective, though,
yeah, it could be.
We signed Joe Willock for £25 million, and money has only gotten more out of hand since then. And Joe Willock was the same age then, so it's not that outrageous of a deal. And if you really want to go down the rabbit hole, Anthony Martial cost Man United £50 million, and he was dreadful. So if they're going to start looking at these things, all you have to do is turn around and go, Anthony Martial, £50 million. Anderson's a better player than him already, so there's your answer. Stop whinging at us.
Yeah, and time is like, maybe it's a post-COVID kind of a thing, or like we can see it in our own lives. The price of things has dramatically increased. So like what we paid for Bruno, which is now, let's keep me honest, two and a half years ago.
Yeah.
January signing 2022, 35 million. So like, if you're looking at it going, Bruno costs the same as Anderson, right? In one way, of course, fucking steal, like Bruno's unbelievable. He's a worldly, but you know, that 35 million is probably already 50 now.
Yes.
And this was Bruno in Lyon at a time when they weren't doing so well and probably could have done with the cash, etc., etc. So, but I still think, there is a consensus on the value of that transfer. But lads, you have to throw in a couple of million at least for the English tax, right? That just goes without saying. Yeah. And he's a young player, and he's played, you know, he has played a lot of games in the Premier League compared to these boys that are moving between Chelsea and Villa, who are going for 20 million a pop, and they've never even played, or they played a really small handful. Excellent. Okay, and just to round off on PSR, Krisho, I know you love money, and I know you love accounting, and the books, as it were. It kind of set us up for transfer budget, but like, you know, there's a question here from Davey. Is it Davey Eddie or Eddie Davey? I'm not sure. He looks like Elvis in his picture. Saying that Darren Eales has delivered in the end, that the club have delivered in the end with great business. Now we can push on. Better players will always be looked at. But likewise, we will also look at other players. But just to round off on the PSR conversation, we feel like we've done enough to set us up for this summer. So the two questions I have for you would be, one, do you suspect that's the end of outgoings completely, or do you still think we'll see a couple more outgoings? And in particular, does what we've done in the last weekend to protect ourselves, is that 100% certified Isaac and Bruno, and let's throw Gordon in there? He used to be bottom, and he's probably not going anywhere with the injury. We ring fence them now, those three big guys, for the summer.
100% we can. Yeah, that's. We don't need to think about that for next year or the year after, maybe even. Yeah, unless Madrid come in for Irish next year. But the guys aren't going anywhere. Like Tevin had said on our live podcast a couple of weeks ago, he said, like, you know, these guys signed up to the project. They signed up to the project. Yeah, so look, we're fine here. In terms of outgoings, I mean, like I said, I was at Miggy's house a couple of weeks ago at a barbecue. His wife looked like she was packing the suitcases up in the room. So it looks to me like Miggy's definitely going. And it looks to me also that Wilson also might be going. I don't know why I've got it in my waters here that Wilson's on the way. I don't know how much, maybe 20 million. I don't know if he's going to be going to Saudi or anything, but I can't really. And then the other one that I'm going to throw in here just for the live show, I don't know whether anybody believes this, but Ipswich have sold their first starter keeper, and Al, I know you're turning your head. Hang on, Pope goes to Ipswich. We bring in the Valencia keeper as the number one.
I am not going to say no to that because, you know, Paul, me and you were talking about this before, and I think there's something going to happen in the goalkeeping department myself.
I think so too. Yeah. Something's
Yeah, it's a
coming down the line.
mysterious one. I don't know, lads. I mean, even again today, we saw some graphics going around about the impact of Nick Pope's injury and where mistakes are happened or goals were conceded or whatever, and how that has financially and mathematically impacted us. So I feel like I'd be perfectly happy with Nick Pope next season. Yes, there's a lot of love for Mamardashvili, for example, and especially seeing him at the Euros. He's been great, and he is great, right? I mean, there's talks Atletico Madrid might look at him instead of Oblak, because Oblak will be going to freaking Chelsea, whatever. Like, there's a whole merry-go-round to come in that world. But I'm still fine if Nick Pope is in goals because of what he's done for us and how clearly we struggled without him. I'd live, because I said it to you already, lads. I want to see the priority given to those outfield positions, and in particular that right position. Let's stick with outgoings then really quickly, Krisho, because I do want to talk about the transfer budget, and we'll come on to the poll we ran earlier today. Assuming we do sell Miggy, right? And it seems to be live today. I've seen a picture today of Miggy that looks like he's already over in Saudi. I think it's Al Ettifaq.
Is that not from when we were over in Saudi
possibly,
training?
do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it might have been.
You never know. I didn't check if it says Castor on it or anything like that, but either way, it's heating up that potentially Miggy will go now. It was interesting to see even Alan St. Maximin come out against some other accounts that were like, "Oh, good riddance to Miggy and time to go."
Yeah.
You know, Miggy's been a good servant of the club. I don't think there's any need.
No,
for
he
that.
has. Yeah, he has.
But I think if we stick with logic and likelihood, it's probably likely that Miggy's going to go. So you're looking at Miggy potentially going. All right. Other outgoings, we mentioned Dubravka. There's talks of a 3 million fee, not huge. After that, lads, you're looking at maybe Wilson. We've mentioned Longstaff and possibly Trippier, right? So anyone else, Alan, even that comes to mind that you think would be a surprise sale?
A surprise? No. I think we might see Lewis Miley head out on loan.
Okay.
No, loan. Get him some game time, because look, we're not in Europe this year. We're not going to be as congested. We're not going to need 7 central midfielders. Hopefully, we're not going to need 7 central midfielders.
You'll get signed up yet, Alan, if things.
Exactly.
That's why Anderson's gone. Yeah, that's why Anderson's gone. We had too many.
The other side of it is the Alfie Harrison. Is he about to potentially become the Anderson replacement that we've already had that we didn't know he had? Because I seen him playing that Hong Kong 7 tournament before. Well, it was the end of the season. He's a very, very, very good footballer. He's just he looks like he's going to be a good player. So I'd be interested to see what they do with him next season.
Yeah, and we talked about this before, Alan. Hanging on to players blocks pathways for other players, right? Whatever about the PSR and the transfer budget, but like when you keep squad players in your squad, they do block out young players. Now, as you said, if Miley goes on loan, I don't know, it's a bit of a risk as we are now. We know Tonali's coming back, but then Anderson is out, so Joe Willock being a little bit unreliable, you just don't know. We mentioned before, I think it was when we had Billy Costin on the pod, we were talking about the potential of Alex Murphy going on loan, for example. But again, he's someone you'd love to be able to see get into the squad if there's an injury, or if we're winning a game, there's 10, 15 minutes left, or if we have an easy cup draw. You want those pathways really for those players to get through. So lads, I want to ask you then the question of the day. I'm actually going to bring it up on screen because we did a little poll on Twitter today, lads. And we asked our Irish Mags faithful across the WhatsApp, across Twix, Twitter, all of the above, a warm-up question for the show, which was, how much do we think Newcastle will spend between now and the end of the window, which naturally would suggest how much do you think we have to spend. And I'm going to come to you, lads, first, but just to give you the results, just to spoil or influence your decisions here, lads. 55% almost reckon we'll spend more than £100 million, right? Now, I don't know if we've ever spent more than £100 million in a window, which is just something to come back to in a moment. 7%, the more pessimistic few, thought we might spend less than 50 million, which is, it's not insane, but fingers crossed that doesn't happen. And obviously then the bulk of it, 26%, between 75 and 100. I'll tell you first, lads, in my mind, I find it hard to believe we'll spend £100 million, which is whatever, 130 million euros. So I was kind of hanging around that 75 to 100 million, as in that's how much we'll have and potentially spend. But obviously then you got to think about player sales and that kind of thing. Where were you sitting, Krisho? I'll come to you first. You seem to be in agreement.
No, I was with you. I'm in the 26% there, 75 to 100 million. we might spend about 80, 90 million, but we won't spend over 100 million pounds. Unless, I mean, there's something coming through here that we don't know about. Or those sales that we were just previously talking about will add. Maybe we do have a pot of 150 million pounds, but I just can't see them splurging it this summer. I did say in the group though, and I will say it here on the live podcast, I do think there's a superstar signing coming this summer. So I don't know how much this is going to cost. I don't know how much that's going to cost, but somebody superstar-ish is coming through, and it's going to cost 50 to 60, 70 million pounds. Morgan Gibbs White, that's not really a superstar signing.
Also not needed.
You don't think
he's a 10. We don't play a 10. He can play on the wing. I don't want a player that can do a thing. I want a winger. I want specific positions that we need filled. I don't want look, we need everyone needs a utility man. I don't want to go out and sign 4 utility men instead of buying one decent winger that will go straight into the squad that will make us a better team. That the days of that need to end. We don't need any more Joe Lintons. We don't need a John O'Shea type of player that can fill in 7 positions. We want a right winger, and that's what we need to get.
We're going to have a good I think a lot of today's chat is going to be about incomings, and folks, listeners out there, YouTube, Twitch, get your questions in chat. We do have them all here, even the ones we haven't read out since you put them in. We are going to go through them, especially around the incoming ones. But again, Alan, like with that budget question, because I think that really sets up, if you're going to talk about incomings, right? I think we all need to have a fairly good grasp, even in your own head, of like how much are we talking here. So naturally, the amount we have to spend, we could talk about Nico Williams, right? Who's coming out of this Euros with another 20 or 30 million slapped on top. I know there was talks of a clause as well.
Release clause.
Clubs or Champions League. But and then you're throwing in the salary on top of that, right? He's coming out now being able to really just decide what he wants to do, because he's been unbelievable. So are you a bit more optimistic on do we break 100 million pounds in this window based on player sales, past and present and future?
Well, I voted that we're going to spend over 100 million. I think didn't we sign Isak and Barnes together? Well, not together, but like in the same window. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I thought Isak came in before.
Oh, did he? Yeah,
Barnes came in the last window with Tonali.
Yeah.
So Barnes and Tonali came in together.
Well, then that would have been over 100 million. That's the 100 million broke.
Just about
55 and like it's about 90 million pound, but we signed a couple of others like Alfie Harris. Well, Alfie Harris came in January, but we have spent over 100 million in one window, I think, and I think we're going to do it again. I think the Gulf of it's going to go on our right winger, and potentially an other keeper that comes in to replace Pope. Fingers crossed it's Mamardashvili, but we never know. I can see us spending big this summer and making a serious go of something next summer. Don't know what we're going to make a go of, but it'll be one of the cups, I'd say.
Right.
Not the Sela Cup.
We have that wrapped up.
Yeah, we have that wrapped up.
Yeah. Obviously, hopefully a lot bigger and better than that. Excellent. Okay. And again, just looking at those outgoings, Sean is in chat there saying that Matt Targett could potentially drop out as well. It's a player I kind of sometimes forget. If I think left back, I'm like Lewis Hall, Dan Byrne. And obviously, I'll talk about Alex Murphy all day, Galway all the way.
Yeah.
Matt Targett, he hasn't been seen for a while, obviously with his injury. I haven't heard any whispers. Again, it's going to be hard to sell a player that just hasn't played any competitive football for so long and hasn't been seen. I don't know if you've picked up on anything about Matt Targett, but would you expect him to be around by the time we kick off?
No, I don't think so. Who was the Northern Irish guy that we signed for 15 million pounds in Irish?
Lewis.
He's still there, isn't he? Yeah. He's still there, isn't he? So I think he's got to go first before we look at getting. We've got so many back.
Not up this summer?
No, it's next summer. He's another year left. He was out on loan with Watford, and they had an option to buy or an obligation if they went up, and they didn't go up, so they didn't go through with the option. He had so much potential when he came in, it just didn't work out for him. He got bruised beyond belief. And about Matt Targett, the problem with shipping him out is he is on a scandalous amount of money, potentially 100k a week, which is just outrageous for the footballer that he is. Look, he's a good footballer, but he's not 100 grand a week footballer, unfortunately. So if we did give him that contract, I have a funny feeling we're going to be stuck with him for the remainder of his contract. But he did leave Villa to play games, so he could do the same with us.
Yeah,
you never know.
You never know. And there's still a couple other random. Like Fraser, I think, is done deal with Southampton, right? I think he's gone.
I think he's
there's a
waiting
few
to be
other heads
paid
I'd
out by us.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
He's just
Yeah.
an arsehole. The easiest way to describe, like the Bournemouth fans about him were right. He's an arsehole. So
What did Chris Show call him? It was shit stick of the year.
Shit stick of the year. He really is. And he, you know what? He's got. I swear to God, I think it's somewhere like £2.5 to £3 million we have to pay him to get him to go away. So it's like a bad smell. That's an expensive bottle of Febreze. Do you know what I mean? The stink is still there. We need to get rid of this guy. Like, he is poisonous. Like, and Southampton can take him all day. But going back to Matt Target, I personally believe that somebody coming up might give us now 15 million or 10-15 million for Matt Target. He's Premiership.
I think he's good enough. He is good enough.
Yeah.
He showed he's good enough. No, it's just been a while. Do you know what I mean? And he's not getting any younger. But I think he's good enough. You know?
Would you take 5 million on the grounds that they're going, look, he's worth 10 million, but we have to put money into his wages? So I would take 5 million for him as long as we get him off the books and we're not paying any of his wages.
Yeah.
So that's the way I look at it. Anything that comes in for him, take it and get him gone. So just makes everything easier.
That's not crazy, you know. Yeah. I think overall it's reassuring to if as we kind of, we're still working in the, like, not really Matt Target, but we're still working in the legacy of Ashley and Bruce and these players who still, like, it took, obviously Jeff Hendrick has finally left Christian's best friend. Tick your bingo cards, folks. We've mentioned Jeff Hendrick. But these players like Jamal Lewis, like Ryan Fraser, like Isaac Hayden, like guys who did a job for us, but we're kind of like signings that we made because that's all we could get. Now we're able to talk about like Davey again has a really good point here about Alfie Harrison. His first touch is terrific. He's got everything Miley has, takes on players as well. It's nice to think that we can move away from that other model of let's bring in kind of slightly more aged players who are as good as we can get, and instead either bring in first team ready players or have quality players coming up through the ranks, which is obviously very sure.
I definitely see an Italian coming in. I don't know who that Italian is, but I definitely see an Italian coming into the club. It'll be good for Tonali. It'll be good to have another Italian player. I think an international Italian will be coming in. I know I said a couple of weeks ago, Chiesa. I watched them the other night in their insipid performance against Switzerland.
Oh, they were bad. Yeah.
They were brutal, but Chiesa had some nice touches. He put his head down a lot, but he's a right jinky little Johnson. I think, I don't know how much he would be. He might be what, £50 million.
Yeah, but he's one of these players that's constantly being touted for moves to the Prem, though. I think he falls into that kind of the Jonathan David player mold where Fabrizio Romano and David Ornstein are constantly week after week after week. As soon as the window ramps up, these are getting linked and like they're getting offered to teams. Why are they constantly being offered to teams and no one taking up the option? Like it's about five windows in a row that Chiesa has been linked to Liverpool and Newcastle, and I'm just going, there has to be something going on here. Like, why has no one either snapped them up, or why has he come out and gone, I'm not going anywhere, I want to stay here? So it's just an odd one. I don't think he's going to move, I don't think he's going to come to us, because I don't think he's an Eddie Howe style player, if you know what I mean. He doesn't have the work rate that we would want.
Yeah, here's the question. Just coming in from me and you guys. I mean, I have two suggestions, but is there anybody, and from your championship manager scrolling through massive databases, is there anybody in Italy that's Italian that? Now, wait, let me finish the question. Is there anybody in Italy that's an Italian national that we think that we could have any chance of getting in on the right wing, or centre back, or striker?
Buongiorno.
I mean, we could probably jump in. It's probably a good time. Like, it's hard when Italy have just played so bad in that Euros and got themselves knocked out. But we can bring up Simon's question here because it's slightly relevant. Malik Thiaw is a name that's been circling. Now, he's not Italian per se. He's obviously German, but he plays in Italy. He plays for Milan, where seemingly we still managed to have a good relationship with AC Milan, especially with the long stop rumors, especially after all the Tonali shenanigans. And Simon reckons that we've offered 20 million plus Kieran Trippier for Malik Thiaw at Milan, which is interesting. I mean, their right back situation, they do have Pierre Kalulu who's played there. They have Calabria, who's not a young fella. He's not in the Italian team, so it's not outrageous. Whatever about the financial side of things. This name hasn't gone away, and our friend Sean Casey has been talking about him for quite a long time. And Krisho, on the Football Manager front, I do know Malik Diop from Football Manager. Just like in real life, he's strong, he's good in the ball. I think he had a bit of an injury last season, which you have to have an injury in order for us to be linked with you.
He's German or English? He's German.
He's
right?
German.
German,
He's German.
right.
Yeah, Malik
Right,
Diop
okay.
is German. And then obviously his buddy alongside him would be Fikayo Tamori, who, again, he's also another name that's kind of circled around. And the one thing to say about Tamori, like I love the fact he's so quick. I think he'd be great for us alongside a Botman or a Share, depending on what's going on. He must be sitting there, right? Mark Gahey is out now. He's suspended for England next game. So they're looking at Ezri Konza, who's only just really in the England squad, or Lewis Dunk, who's only in there just the same way Conor Cody was a few years ago. He must be sitting there going, what have I done wrong? I've won Serie A, I've came second, I've played Champions League. But Southgate won't pick him because he plays in a league he doesn't like, right? It's if I'm Tamori, Alan, I'm like, yeah, look, get me back in the plane to the Premier League. Even if Southgate's not the manager.
100%.
There must be part of him.
It has to be part of his logic, but like from an Irish perspective, give Southgate a 15-year contract, lads.
Yeah.
Brilliant. No, it's outrageous that he's not in that England squad. He's levels above Gahey, and Gahey starting. I don't understand it. He's better than Gahey. Gahey is the third best English centre half, and Tamori, the second best one, didn't get in the squad. So I don't know. Like, it's obvious that he has a problem with people playing in foreign countries. Although he did go to Holland to watch Hendo play, and then realized he's actually 73 years old and can't play football anymore. So we finally left him out of the squad. But like, I don't understand that myself, how he's not in the squad.
Yeah, and then there's another shout from Davey here about Calafiori, but again, like he's the only one in that Italian team, maybe Chiesa to an extent, who's coming out with his head held high. He was phenomenal at that tournament. Playing at Bologna, there is a release clause. He's up and get the Champions League, but already today I saw Chelsea linked with them. Again, Chelsea are just collecting centre backs like the old, cornflakes tokens you'd collect.
If they sign him, they will have 10 centre halves in their squad.
It's a joke.
You can only name a 26-man squad. They're not going to name 10 centre halves in the 26-man squad unless they're going to play 7 at the back and all of them are centre halves. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
I think you put that up on Twitter. Paul, did you not? Did you not put that up, or did you put up a graphic where Chelsea's formation?
I did actually. Yeah, I was taking this to Chelsea even because they were linked with I can't even remember who it was, but it was someone else on top of having just signed Tosin. I can't cope with it. The same way Bayern are going after all the forwards in the world. I saw another similar graphic, but it was the other way around with Bayern. It's just, I don't know, sometimes clubs just get a bit excited. At least you'd like to think that we have a bit of a plan in place. And I wanted to bring up Davey's question here before we start talking about some of the names. Some great names in chat, by the way. Keep them coming, folks. Keep the names coming, the rumors you've heard, because we want to actually go through it. Question here from Dave Bullman, who we know is a great listener of the show. Most of us know we need a right centre back, which we've kind of briefly spoken about there, and a winger. I'll just go to, I think we'll go sticking with the right winger position. I think there's a few different names circulating, but we've talked about this a lot in the pod. Any new names, Alan, that's popped around, or any new names that have taken your fancy? And we'll allow it to be outside Italy, even though Krisho clearly is pining for it.
I think Tonali needs a pal.
Friend.
Right wing. I seen Desiree Doué linked again today. He's a young player who looks very, very good. I want Taka Kubo from Sociedad, but he's going to be tasty. As I said before, he's the Japanese Gordon. He fits the bill to perfection. There's no new links.
The good thing, Alan, quickly about him, he's not playing in a Copa America or a Euro, so he might be one that holds his value. It doesn't shoot up, which is nice.
I think he has a release clause of 60 million euros as well, which is exactly around what you want to be spending on a player that will make your first 11 better. So he would be my shout. There's no real new names, but I do think our right winger could come from the realms of when Tonali signed for us. We'll be looking at someone, and then all of a sudden, someone else will be holding up the Newcastle jersey, and we'll be going, "Oh, how did that happen?" So, fingers crossed. You know yourself.
Where did that come from? Declan, we know Declan well. How are you, Declan? How are you doing there? He's got a shout for Rafinha. So Rafinha, obviously of Barcelona, ex-Leeds. His name pops up and down every single window, largely because even though he's quite consistent for Barcelona and he plays for Brazil, it's almost like he just isn't that big enough name for Barcelona levels. And it's always like they want to look or bring someone else in. Anything about Rafinha, Krisho, in terms of rumors or would you, if you
no, because the guy, obviously, I said Chiesa. Then the other thing is that in reality, I've got an awful feeling we're going to go to Brentford and knock on their door and get Brian Mbeumo, and we're going to get him for a pretty tasty price too, not extravagant whatsoever. And I look at his Premiership proven. I say Premiership, Premier League proven. Good stats, good goals. He can play up front on his own. He can play right wing. He can play left wing. I mean, he's what, 24? I think he's 24.
Thereabouts, yeah.
I think that's a realistic shout, gents. To bring him in, I think he would work really well with Eddie Howe as well. He seems to do what he's asked for on the pitch, and he tracks back as well. Al, you were talking about that a lot. Eddie Howe needs people tracking back. I think that would be a steal, to be honest with you. Brian Mbeumo, 35 million euros or 35 million pounds.
He kind of takes that imaginary Premier League proven box that Eddie Howe definitely is a fan of. I think that
yeah.
And because he's familiar to us, I think there's less, from a fan base perspective, you'd have less hype and less excitement about it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when he's been fit, and he also had an injury this season, naturally. But when he's been fit, he stacks up in terms of goals and assists. He's an interesting player. He's not. I don't know. He's kind of unique in his own way in terms of playing.
Just on him now, and I hate saying this, and it's such a bad thing, but he'll be going to the African Cup of Nations next year, so we'll lose him for an entire month. I think it will come into the equation when Eddie is looking at players, because we know how unfortunate we are with injuries. So when you're looking at a player and you're going, well, he's definitely gone for potentially 8 to 10 games, you're going, we can't afford that. So
all right, that's fair enough. But what about okay? What about Pedro Neto?
He's made a paper mache. I just can't justify the outlay on him when he's made a paper mache.
Okay. Again, very injury prone, and the thing with a lot of these players, and they're smaller, it always brings you back to Michael Owen, but former Newcastle Michael Owen, 1997, 98, 99 Michael Owen. He won a Ballon d'Or it's insane. But he was small, he ran too fast. And sometimes when you run too fast, depending on your development of your body and all that kind of stuff, your hamstrings they're just going all the time. And I feel like that's a little bit of Neto, there's an interesting one in chat here from Dave, actually. So with Arne Slot in at Liverpool and Gakpo playing well for Holland, he obviously scored today on the day of recording when the Netherlands beat Romania. I think it was 3-0. Would you take Gakpo and cash for Gordon if Gordon was pushing for a move? Chris was shaking his head.
No way. He's a utility guy.
Yeah.
How much? I knew Alan was going to say how much cash.
Oh no, like if it's Gakpo and 100 million, you'd have to sit down and have a seat. But if you're talking Gakpo and 6 million, you can go swing for it, because to replace Gordon, you have to spend 120 million. So it has to be worth our while to be getting this money in. So it's not going to happen. I think Gordon is too valuable to us to be let go, and he is just going to get better and better and better. He's going to run amok in the black and white next year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's so much more to come from Gordon, considering he only missed like one game or something last season with a booking, with a suspension or whatever it was. That silly booking. Correct. Like, I just think there's so much more to come. And it's, again, I just can't get over the fact that he's played a grand total of about 3.5 minutes at his Euros in a pathetic England squad. But anyway, that's for another day.
Yeah.
Davey here is saying, and I would stick with that position, I suppose, that, we reckon we already have a top player dialed in and we don't give too much away. And that comes back to that whole Alexander Isak signing, even Tonali, where it kind of came out of nowhere. Krisha, how, like, based on what you've observed in the last week, where it feels like, shit, we need to raise 50, 60 million, we need to do it now, crap, sell, offer, sell, right, Anderson gone, Minter gone, done, over the finish line, sweating balls off. So does that fill you with confidence that we actually already know who we're signing or already have a deal lined up? Let's say focusing on that big position, that right wing position where it's 50 million or 60 million. Yeah. Do you think that the club are already, do you reckon they're already like, this is a player we're already in talks it's going to happen? Or do you think they're still out there going, who can we get?
About 3 days after the season finished, they had their chats for a week or 2 weeks, and they have their list. They've already made contact with all of these players, and the only one that's failed so far is Tossin. But to answer your question, yes, they've got everything lined up. And look, if we're sitting here, and this is the curse of social media in a sense, even though we're on it right now, is essentially everyone's sitting there watching it every day, all day, every minute. And yes, you're kind of thinking to yourself, what are the club doing, or what are they up to today, or what haven't they done this morning, and why don't we have more comms, and this, that, and the other. It's because we're all sitting kind of waiting for something to happen, and yet the club in the background are calmly going about their business. That Anderson thing and that Minter thing, that was well decided like a month ago. Okay, the deal wasn't done, but it was well decided a month ago. These two will go to afford us to let Miggy Wilson and Pope go, which we'll get Kelly in, and then we'll get 4 more players in, around 20, 25 million each, or somebody for an extortionate amount of money, like 75 million pounds. Because look, like I said earlier, and I want our listeners to be excited, there's definitely something happening in August that's going to blow our literal socks off. There's going to be a superstar signing coming in. Somebody that we never thought would ever play for Newcastle United is definitely coming into the club. So, to answer your question, Paul, this is
filling us with hope, Alan. We told him not to fill us with hope, and he keeps doing it.
That's the problem.
This was all of this has been decided, and it's only because it's our instant reactions to it. But Anderson was well aware. The only worry that I have is that they've sold Anthony Gordon's best pal. You saw how sad he was on Instagram. He even said in his interview with Gary Neville that his best pal at Newcastle was Anderson. But I mean, that's football, right?
Mm. So, Chris, so far on this show, you've been concerned that Tonali needs a mate from it, so he doesn't get lonely, and you're concerned that Anthony Gordon has lost his best mate.
Yeah.
Maybe if we could just get Tonali and Anthony Gordon hanging out together, it's problem solved. We don't need to just spend money to give lads friends, okay?
Okay, fair enough. All right, but I'm just
maybe Jeff Hendrick was everyone's best mate.
Look, I didn't say it again. He said it again. I didn't say anything.
Declan is calling you Chris O'Casey here.
I'll take it. No problem.
Take that indeed. Right. We've talked about that right wing position. We've talked a little bit about that centre half position as well. We also chatted about the goalkeeper position as well, talking about Nick Pope and Mamardashvili, and the James Trafford deal, which still has a bit of a question mark on it. Let's take a bit of time, lads, to talk about the striker position. And we can use Sean Gilly's question here in chat to kick us off. So obviously, look, lads, we saw it last season. It was very rare that Isak and Wilson were ever fit at the same time. It's rare that the three of us are ever fit at the same time, but again, that's different problems. Obviously, we know Isak's going to stay, but the question probably for me in one side is Wilson staying or going? But I think either way, we still need 3 strikers. Now, maybe one of those is an up and coming or someone who's happy to be a backup. But I still maintain we need 3 strikers. So I think that's an open role to be filled. Sean's question is, if Wilson stays and maybe he becomes third choice, can we see ourselves buying a young striker with serious potential who's potentially that second/first choice competing with Isak? And I'm gonna read it like he said it. Evan Ferguson.
Yeah,
please.
Yeah. We wish.
We love seeing the Irish. Man.
Yeah.
No,
we tried to tap him up at that Champions League event last year for a show, as like we did, and that man was very committed to Bournemouth for the duration of his contract.
Brighton,
Brighton. Yeah, sorry. He did say, like, there was Man United fans, there was Arsenal fans, there was City fans, and everyone was like, come join us. And he was like, no, lads, Brighton have done me well. I'll be with them for a while. So I don't think he's going to leave anytime soon. But you never know. You never know.
A new manager come in, a new manager come in. You might have a look at him and say, look.
Evan Ferguson next season is going to have a massive year, and he's going to score a hat full of goals, and he's going to become very expensive, I think, which is a problem for us because I don't think we're going to be able to afford him, unfortunately. I'd love to get him in, though. Going to be a great player.
Okay. Openda, Sesko, the Swedish guy who plays in Spain. Oh.
No, I think you're thinking of Gyökeres.
Yeah, Gyökeres.
Yes, Gyökeres. In Portugal, sorry, that guy. Those 3. Openda, him, Sesko.
Openda might be the most realistic one in terms of a price. Sesko has so much hype that it's just big clubs and high money, high price, no matter what way you look at it. And think Gyökeres has scored so many goals that they can charge whatever they want for him. Although I must tell you, lads, just to drop back to Football Manager briefly, Alan, you love this. In the save I'm in currently, Newcastle are top of the league with both Isak and Gyökeres up front. The Swedish combo, you'd absolutely dream of that. But if only. Here's a shout in from Simon. Jonathan David from Lille, who I think he's one of those lads that Fabrizio Romano has tweeted about every window since Twitter was in existence. Still at Lille, prolific record. Like, you know, Lille have been up and down. Obviously, they won the league that season, then that's not strong, but he scores continuously throughout. Again, you know, sticking with, like you, Alan, you mentioned about Chiesa. Why is he still there if he's that good with all these windows that pass? But Jonathan David isn't a bad shout from a value perspective. He's saying 35 million last year of his contract.
Yes, 35 million. That'll probably be euros. I just look at that and say, well, if you go out and spend an extra 10 million euro or 15 million euro, you'd get Openda. Yeah. And if you're taught like that, they're the levels. Like Jonathan David is a very, very good player. Lois Openda is potentially world class. So I'd rather go out and spend that 15 million to get in a potentially world class player than have to bring him in.
With Newcastle United, African connections with strikers, right? Martins, Ba. Look, what about this? Victor Boniface.
Still there.
Nigerian, 23, probably cost around £30 million. Excellent scoring record. I think he's got a release clause as well. I thought maybe that, we might have been scouting him, having a look at him. He'd suit. He's fast, he's strong. He'd be a right replacement for Wilson. And if we got 20 million for Wilson from a Saudi club and paid 30 million or 35 million for Boniface, that'd be 15 million pounds we're getting it from.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but he only had one prolific season, is the issue there. He hadn't scored more than, I think it was 6 goals in a season before last season. Are we buying a potential Miggy purple patch player where you're going, oh, he's world class, and then 6 months later you're going, he's worth 15 quid, sell him as soon as possible and get rid of him? And I don't want anything like that. I'd rather have someone who's done it for a couple of seasons rather than someone who's only had one good season and we're coming off the back of that.
But we're buying in potential all the time. Isak, Tonali, they are great players, but they were all bought for potential, for their future potential. So there must be a striker out there. Guirassy, I know we keep mentioning him. He's 27 though, so he's not really young.
There's value in Guirassy, yeah. I think there's definitely value because of his tag, and even Simon has shouted out Brila Mbolo here, who's again someone who was tipped for greatness, is doing all right for Switzerland in the Euros currently. He would be good buddies with Fabian Schär, which would make Krisho happy and tick that box.
Well, how do you all buddies?
Again, I think it just comes down to, if we spend 60 million on a right winger, I think we're down to a 20 or 30 million striker max, right? Versus if we kind of go all out in a striker who can maybe play on the right. Do you know what I mean? I think it depends where you're slicing up the pie and saying, right, this much is going there, this much is going there. So it's a really hard one to guess. Like, those suggestions are probably within range, Krisho, like Boniface and Guirassy in particular.
Did Guirassy not sign for Dortmund? I'm just looking here, and
I don't know if it's done. Was it done? Simon is saying it's off the door. Okay. I don't know if it's actually done, but it could be. It could easily be. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. Okay.
And there's another shot for African nations as well. Yeah. Something else we have to keep in mind, I guess, for sure. So there's a few different striker options there, lads. I think, again, you'd like to share Krisho's optimism that they already have a very good idea of who these targets are. And you'd love to think they'll move quickly because it's going to be a very long summer, especially with a lot of the Twitter, Twix, ITK madness that ensues and all the different names that go around. I really would like to get that right wing position done sooner rather than later, so that at least you know how much we're spending. We know it's a key gap that's filled. And then you can obviously start to speculate, right, where do we move and where do we look next, as well as selling on some other players to have a look around. Any other incoming names, Alan or Krisho, that
Mio Drag, Pivas.
Can we have that again?
Mio Drag, Pivas.
This is the young Serbian chap, right?
Yeah, so seemingly he was, well, not seemingly, he was pictured outside St. James's. So that's looking like not a done deal, but as close to one as you can possibly get. I think he's going to go into the under-21 squad and potentially into maybe knock about the senior team a little bit. I know nothing about him. No point me lying and saying, I've done this, I've done that. Never heard of him. The first I heard of him was when he was photographed outside St. James's. So seemingly has a hell of a lot of potential. We like players with a lot of potential, so fingers crossed he comes through for us.
Interesting, yeah, and it's out there, it's left field, but again, that's where you're more confident in the process in terms of we've got a scouting network now. We're actually looking at these remote places where a lot of clubs are happy to go and spend 35-40 million on a player that another club found. I want us to be that club that's also unearthing these gems. We've tried in the past with mixed success. Rodrigo Vilca comes to mind, and various players like that. But it's nice to think that we do have the networks out there, that we are expanding the net, and obviously bulking up our under 21s and obviously the under 18s as well. Okay, that's transfers kind of mostly covered. But if there's any other names, guys, keep them coming in chat. Thank you for all the questions you've put in so far. Fueling a really good conversation. All it makes me want to do is go and start a new save in Football Manager with Newcastle.
Yeah.
But I must resist. I would be the worst. Let's just have a quick chat because it's quite topical. And I know we mentioned it's Chrisio's favorite topic because he spent a lot of time in his garden during the summer. It looks like the Dan Ashworth debacle is finally over. And shout out to Toon Poles, who's absolutely rattled the entire Man United fan base on Twitter by making them believe that it was the fee eventually was agreed at about 2.5 million. To believe that we've sat on this since February and caused all this havoc, now not only for ourselves but for them, to then go and agree on a 2.5 million the day after all our PSR troubles are over. Come out of the fog is a very good phrase for that. But Chrisio, any talks about what the actual fee is and what does that mean then? Are we close to actually a replacement? Because that has popped up a few times. We are with the sporting director coming in.
Al might have the sporting director. I think it's not Pinto. What's his name?
It is Pinto, isn't it?
Is it Pinto? Yeah. 12.5 million was the fee. So that's where he got the 2.5 million per foot. Because I think Dan Ashworth, I don't know what height he is. He looks about 4 foot in real life.
He was sitting on the lawn chair when you were with him, so you never really got a feel.
No, he was slithering. He was slithering on the grass while I was there. But so 12.5 million. I think it's rather shameful, frankly, that Man United tried to pull a fast one with us, knowing that we needed money to plug a hole, and they thought we were going to do them. But looks like we have done them a deal. We're supposed to be hanging on for 20, and we 12.5. We kind of, because I think the guy that runs Ineos and major stake in Man United, I can't think of the guy's name. I blank him out of my mind. What's his name?
Doesn't matter. It's Dick.
Yeah, head of the cartel, right? He did an interview a couple of weeks ago, and the way he speaks about the Premier League, you swear there was just 6 teams in it, and it's like as if everybody else would just stand aside and let them just have a 6-team league and see who wins the league. And I think that they didn't want to be dealing with this guy and doing interviews all over the place anymore. Look, let's just get this out of our hair. Let Dan Ashworth go there and buy Yakuba Minta from Brighton as soon as he gets there and bring him into Manchester United for £60 million. We'll take some of that percentage, thanks. But 12.5 million is good. I'm sure that'll go towards what we have to spend and to bring in a new director of football, because I don't think they're cheap. These directors of football, I don't think they're cheap, are they?
They're not. No, and Alan, you had mentioned Thiago Pinto's name in the past. He was the ex-Benfica fella.
Yeah.
I thought I recalled that he had gone somewhere else.
He was linked to Roma. I don't think he's taken that job.
Okay.
The other link is the guy that is currently head of the 777 Capital Partners, whose name has gone out of my head. But I think that's
Johannes
Spurs.
Yes.
Yeah,
it'd be great for Tottenham, but anyway, that's a different problem.
But I don't think he's actually linked. I think that's just more a link out of he's close, but like I think he'll get whatever happening with Everton. Them links then came as soon as the Everton thing fell apart. So I was like, that just sounds like they're trying to add 1 and 1 together and get 5. So I don't really think that's going to happen.
I know who my favorite name, that I don't even think it's remotely close, but I just, for all kinds of reasons, Paolo Maldini's name popped up there.
Yeah.
And I
Wow.
just the thought of Paolo Maldini strutting around Newcastle, St. James's Park, down to the big market, down to Greg's. And like, if Paolo Maldini walks into a room and you're negotiating, you don't fuck with Paolo Maldini.
He got booed. He got booed off the pitch, didn't he? He got booed off the pitch last season. I swear to God, it was at the end of the season. He was going around clapping.
Possibly
and stuff
because Milan are seen. Their fans see them as quite an unambitious club, so it's quite possible that was the case. Right, their finances are always a bit all over the place. The way they play football, the managers they hire. So I wouldn't be surprised. But at the same time, God, I'd love to bring in Maldini, and as Simon has said in the chat here, it'd be good for Tonali as well.
Exactly.
That Italian dinner party would be some crack, Krisha. You got to get an invite for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll kill his name when I get the invite. No problem.
There'd be spaghetti and Moretti for everyone.
Got the spoons. Spaghetti Moretti.
Look, lads, it's good that it's over. It was a distraction we didn't need.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'm sure it's not bothering Eddie Howe or anyone like that, but just good to get it over with. 12.5 million, fine. You know, we'll take that.
What was his legacy? Like, really, what was his legacy apart? Obviously, bringing in some appointments that I think maybe.
I think he helped to connect a lot of dots and to get everyone like this. When they think about how a guy like Ashworth approaches things, it's like, right, from the youth team, from the under 16s upwards, we should be thinking tactically along the same lines. We should be looking at paths for each position in each role and what the manager needs and blah, blah, blah. You know, connecting all these dots throughout. And then obviously looking at what roles you need elsewhere. I don't think it was ever intended that Ashworth is the man who's bringing in all the players. There's a couple of Ashworth signings, but I think there was other things there. And he's helped to build it, but he's not even hung around to see any of it come to fruition. Yeah. So, you know what I mean? There's a legacy there that he's not left behind, that someone else should come along and jump on and say there's a real opportunity to become part of something special. So I'm around if they need anyway. As you know, I'm not working at the moment. So, if they just answer my letters, it would be great.
Vote for Paul. Vote
okay,
for Paul,
lads.
everybody.
Hashtag vote Paul for director.
Yeah, hashtag vote Paul.
I'll be the director of Crack. How's that? Yeah. CRAIC. Right. Moving swiftly on. Before we wrap up, lads, there was a big announcement today on the Sela Cup. Now, I'm not sure. I was driving when this started, kind of got announced, and then I had to make the dinner, so I didn't get a chance to read up on a whole lot. But I know you lads are well clued in because I have it on good authority. You lads are already looking at transport and flights and all kinds of stuff. Do we know the opposition? I saw Girona, that name floating around.
So Friday the 9th of August, we play Girona at 7:30 p.m. Now, this is all rumours. I don't think it's officially been announced 100% yet. Now, we could be in the last hour, we don't know, but we play Girona at 7:30 Friday, August 9th, Stade Brest on Saturday, August 10th at 3 p.m. And I will hopefully be going because I have flights, accommodation, and all booked already for the last couple of weeks, praying that they were going to pick that date. Took a shot in the dark, and it looks like I've landed on a bull, so I'm doing well here.
Fingers crossed. I mean, one of those things, even I've already booked some flights for like Premier League fixtures because they're cheap, and you know, you want to make sure you get them locked in. But equally, fixtures can be moved, as we all know.
So day tickets for everybody. Day tickets for either day will be priced at 20 quid, 10 quid for concessions with season ticket holder, and they'll be available for sale on Wednesday, the 3rd of July, and the general sale will be Friday, the 5th of July.
I think you can buy a dual ticket for £35 as well. I think I've seen that somewhere.
So Ali is correct. It is official. Stade Brest at 4 p.m.
That's confirmed.
On Saturday.
4 p.m. Sorry.
Stade Brest at 4 p.m. 10th of August, and we're playing Girona at 7:30 p.m. on Friday the 9th of August. Tickets 20 quid each, or 35 for two.
And just for Simon, the ladies are playing on the Saturday. They haven't confirmed who the ladies are playing yet, but it will be the inaugural Sela Ladies Cup that they will be competing for. So should be a good game too.
Nice. That's shaping up to be a hell of a weekend. Do you think my missus would be interested in changing her date of birth so that it's not her birthday and we don't already have plans that weekend? What do you think?
Well, that's exactly what happened to me last year. So, and it didn't work out. She wouldn't change it for me. So no, it's not going to happen for you.
I wish. If only.
Darren Eales has come out, and obviously he's all about marketing. It's the Sela Weekender. You're going to some kind of festival, which it is, I suppose, some kind of football festival. But look, everybody here, there'll be more information coming out on our channels. But yeah, there will be a heap of Irish mags going over for that.
Yeah.
Some of them actually going. I'm not going to let anybody's plans out of the bag, but some people actually going on Friday and coming back on Monday. But Paul, I don't know. I'm going. Paul, you going? I know Al's going.
He's not allowed.
It doesn't look good. It doesn't look good.
Oh, right, okay.
It's a work in progress, but it's a difficult work in progress. How's that? Speaking right, lads, we'll go through a couple of quick fire questions that we left in the chat that I've been stacking up here, waiting for you lads to smack you with them right in the face. But on that topic of Irish mags traveling and congregating, etc. Alan's good question from Stevie here about Northern Ireland having a meetup place, and I know we've had this question before, and there is a good answer.
There is a good answer because they do. It's the Northern Irish lads are a little bit difficult because they all work an awful lot, so they don't have a definitive we will be here every week like the lads in Dublin do. We do, if I hate saying that, but they do have it. If you get in contact with us in any way on Facebook, on Twitter, on Twix, whatever way you want, we will get you into the group and we'll get you linked up with the lads from Northern Ireland, and we'll get you into a pub somewhere with a load of lads wearing black and white jerseys, and you can shout abuse at tellies together like we all love to do.
Love that, yeah. And they do have their own WhatsApp group as well, right?
Yeah,
which is good. Excellent. Some good feedback in, lads. We are live in Greece at the moment. Greek Mags, shout out there from Al's, Villa Veronica McCormack. Greek Mags, love the show. How are the lads? Great to have the Greeks in here. And we know we've expanded out there before. We're still waiting for Tev to get that trip to Greece sorted. It's work in progress, like everything. Another final question here from, it says Kay Haynes. I didn't get the first name. Is Eddie Howe under big pressure, Krisho, to deliver now with no Europe and a fit squad? So
yes,
I assume we're like top 4, top 6 at stretch. Is he under pressure?
Yes. The quick answer is yes. The long answer, boy, are you ready? If we're not within the top 6, okay, he might get away with 7th with 1 point behind top 6 by January. Like me and Al have had a discussion before, and like we'll have many discussions this season. Eddie Howe is on shaky ground. Look, there's no messing around here. Yeah, it depends on the actual amount of money that's spent this summer and what they bring in for him and what he wants. And if they give him what he wants, and we're sitting in 11th or 12th, I think we all might be having a bit of a surprise for ourselves in January. Because if you, like I said just a minute ago, that if you don't think that they have the players lined up to what they're going to sign this summer and the list of can we get him? No, but then we'll get him. It's staying with the manager over the next 3 to 5 year period. Look, Eddie's not going to be here forever. He might get the England job or he might get sacked. God forbid he might get sacked. They have 2 to 3 replacements lined up, ready to go, or at least be discussed or chatted about. So, yeah, if we're not in the top 6 by January, I think Eddie Howe's going to have a problem.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's reasonable in the sense of if nothing goes wrong, i.e. we've got a very fit squad, we've built up, we've spent money, brought in. If we're not within range of Champions League, now, I don't think he has to qualify for Champions League to keep his job. I think that's extreme. But I think we need to be in range for the majority of the season to get through. Okay. Another comment in here from Jamie. I need this one deciphered slightly for me. I'm trying to make out if it's good or bad. Alan.
It's bad because he doesn't know the rules about the Premier League away fans. So the reason he's saying this is because the away fans in James's get shipped up to the top of the stand. And look, I have been in level 7. It's a 40-minute walk. It's not great. It's not fun. But Jamie, the reason that Newcastle don't have to have away fans behind the goal is because the way our stadium is built, there'd be no possible way to segregate the fans as there wouldn't be enough entrances. So unfortunately, Newcastle are one of the only teams in Europe with the special dispensation that we are allowed to keep the away fans up in level 7 away from us. And for you going, sorry lads, Ashworth had to upgrade. He has a legacy of staying 2 years everywhere and not really doing a whole heap. Look, I'm not going to say he's a bad director of football. Directors of football don't win you trophies. So it's not the end of the world. We'll keep moving. We are growing. And at the end of the day, there's a Man Red fan in here looking at a Newcastle YouTube page, trying to get us riled up, and it's not going to work.
That's fair. And speaking of this YouTube page, there's a question from Davey here. How do we become Toon fans? I don't think we're going to answer that, lads. We've talked about this in the pod. In fact, Davey, if you want to go back to the first episode of the Irish Mag, so this is currently episode 31 of the Irish Mags, go out every week, almost every Wednesday on YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple. You will hear my deep dark secrets of the mid-90s. You will hear Alan being coerced by his uncle at a very young age to be a Newcastle fan, and Chriso's topsy-turvy journey towards being a Newcastle fan, where a few things fell into place, interestingly. So yeah, that would be my answer to that. Go back, have a listen to episode 1, and if you like it, you've got 30 other episodes to go through if you're a glutton for punishment like the rest of us. Right, lads, we are pretty much at the end, although there's one question we probably can't leave behind from Alan Smith, and I don't know if it's ex-Newcastle United
oh my
player,
God, it's Alan Smith.
Alan, if it's you, great to have you back in the black and white. Great channel, lads. Daniel O'Donnell versus Foster and Allen. Who is the best? Chriso, I think you're the music buff of this group.
Yeah, it's definitely not Daniel O'Donnell anyway. And that's just for his cardigans and jumpers and the fact that he's very attracted to 70 and 80-year-old women. No, Foster and Allen are top notch. Foster and Allen are top notch. Listen back to the 70s.
Other musicians are available.
They are.
I think that's a fair shout. That's a fair
I don't even know who the hell you are talking about. What's that question mean?
It's like you know who Daniel O'Donnell is, right? You know
is Daniel O'Donnell a right-sided centre back or a left-sided centre?
Is he not your man off the board? Goshad.
Yeah, that's it, right?
Right. I think on that big massive bombshell, lads, it's a good time to bring episode 31 and of course this live show to an end for this week. Huge thank you to everyone who's tuned in. Thank you for all the questions, all the crack had. We're looking to do a few more of these over the summer because there's so much to talk about. It's kind of insane. One quick mention out there for everyone. The Irish Mags merch store is open. We'll have a link in the description once this is all done and dusted. And obviously it's in the WhatsApp group. Anyone who wants to get involved and join the WhatsApp group, do reach out to us through the socials, through Twitter, Facebook, our email. Everything is in the description below. And as we gear up for a brand new season, we'll be announcing some of our sponsors soon. And I can tell you that there are a couple of spaces for some Irish Mags show sponsors as well. So if anyone out there is interested in becoming an official Irish Mags show sponsor, do get in touch as well via any of the contact details you'll see in the description below. We'll be back for more Irish Magnus next week, where we'll also hope to have a very special guest in attendance. So keep your eyes peeled for that. But until then, lads, all we can say is, how are the lads? Slán, go fól. And we'll see you all very soon. Say goodbye, gentlemen.
Slán, lad. Agus go raibh mar
Slán, and enjoy the week.